It's kind of amazing to realize that only 10 months ago, AI broke out to our life from the back end to the front end with ChatGPT release. And since then, the whole world and its sister started, talking about AI. New AI startups started to roll out. So it's kind of incredible to see all this development in the context of us visual storytellers. For one thing, marketing is a great sector to start using AI, both from a creative standpoint, analytics, and also, sometimes it even can really replace people when you're talking about the video aspect. So with all this action, one stat that kind of caught my attention came actually from Europol. I think it's a European government agency that predicts that 90% of online content could be synthetically generated by 2026. So that opens up a lot of questions for us visual storytelling. And to help me unpack this topic of how marketers can use AI to augment their visual storytelling, I'm delighted to have Cathy McPhillips. She is the Chief Growth Officer at Marketing Artificial Intelligence Institute. Welcome to the show, Cathy.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. It's nice to meet you. It's nice to meet you face to face.
Yeah, I know.
Our Slack communications.
Exactly. So it's always great to connect the face. And Cathy was very generous, actually. Recently, dropping my name for an event down in Florida Keys that was great success. So thanks again for that.
You're welcome.
And before we jump right in, like any great story, we always curious to know about your backstory, how you got started in AI, what really kind of was that magic moment that made you say, hey, this is interesting.
Well, I started my career at two advertising agencies in Cleveland, where I'm still based. I've been here my whole life, except for a few years in Southern Ohio for school. And I went out on my own for about 12 years, did my own thing. Part of the reason was I was raising my children, and I just loved what I was doing, so I wanted to keep going. So I ended up just building a business from home. Yep. And the plus side of that was that I got to learn everything. I'm such a student, so I'm always reading things and learning things. So I was, through the whole social media digital age, I was home absorbing all this content and kind of building my own business and finding my niche. And then I started working I met Joe Polizzi of the Content Marketing Institute. I met him on Twitter. Turns out he lives 3 miles from my house. And he was looking for someone to help with his marketing. And at the time I said I could take you on as a client because I liked having my own business. And within 4 months, I was full-time with Joe and the team. And through Joe, I met Paul Reitzer, who is the CEO of the Marketing AI Institute. And Paul and I have been friends for a long time. And in 2021, early 2021, we met for breakfast one day and we were talking, and here I am. So it was just really good timing for Paul and I to get together to talk. I went to his event, Maycon, in 2019, its first year, just because Joe Polizzi and I went just to support Paul and the team. And then when I left there, I was just like, oh my gosh, there are some really good applications on how I could be using AI in my business with CMI. But at that time, I just wasn't sure how to get started. 2019 was so early. And as you know, Paul was way ahead of all of this.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And between our 2023 event, or 2019 and 2023, it's just now this year at our conference, we just had people having stories to tell, technology to show. So it was such, 4 years is a lot has changed in 4 years. A lot has changed in the past 10 months, as you mentioned.
Yeah, that explains a lot, because, the way you guys are working at the Institute, it's very reminding me of the CMI kind of work, and the annual report, events. So
right.
It's really great to see how you apply that to AI in such a seamless way, and now it all makes sense. But so before we jump right into the details of AI, this is a question I ask all my guests: is how, and since you just shared that you have a long background in marketing, how would you define visual storytelling?
I think visual storytelling, from my perspective, would be, a lot of what I'm doing is writing content, but then a lot of that ties back into making sure that, there's so many words out there. And no matter if it's written content, we always need a visual element that's going to catch someone's attention, being able to tell a story, being able to look at that picture and saying, I know what this is going to be about. And it's actually fun from my perspective. If I write a blog post, it's the hardest part for me, but it's also that I feel like sometimes the most rewarding is trying to find the essence of something visual to really tell the story of what, to convey that in an image, to attach it to my words. So I think, it's so important now when there's so much marketing out there, so much content out there, that visuals are just so important. And we've seen it, with video too. All the videos we're doing, even our podcast, people like watching them talk. So I think just making that, it just adds that human connection and human element to all the stories that we're telling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And definitely visuals is pretty much the first thing people notice before they read captions and text. So absolutely.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So going back to the Institute, can you share maybe a little bit about your role and about the organization itself?
Sure. So the Marketing AI Institute, we are a media, event, and education company focused really on making AI accessible and approachable to marketers and business leaders. And really that means we've got a media arm to the business, which is our newsletter, podcast, ebooks, white papers, research, the media company stuff. And then the education part is we've got an AI Academy for marketers. And we have, which includes, we've got a piloting AI course, we've got an intro to AI course that really is focused on education. Some of this stuff's free, but there is a paid component, but we do have a great free starting point. And then the event portion is MACON, our annual marketing AI conference. And then we've started to do more virtual quarterly summits. So we've done a writer summit in the spring. We're doing an agency summit in November.
Yep,
and then next year we're doing the writer summit again. We're doing a B2B marketer summit in June, and then we'll do the agency summit again in some format in third or fourth quarter next year. So really, again, just trying to find opportunities for us to give our members, both our subscribers as well as our community, a way to hear more stories, bring together the people that are doing it with the people that are trying to do it, and just educating each other and sharing our stories and being forthcoming in how we're doing it, so we can all learn from each other. Because even our team, there's 7 of us, which is exciting to say. A few weeks ago, there were only 5 of us. And I think, we're all learning too. We're just learning a little bit more publicly.
It's changing all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, people say that our company, we're experts, and we may be a little bit farther ahead of many, but we're still learning every single day too.
Yeah. And I guess, with all this whirlwind of the content development that you're doing around AI for marketers, from visual storytelling perspective, focusing mostly on the visual side, if you need to kind of paint a picture of basically use cases from, crawl, walk, and run, what would you say?
From a visual side of things, like I said, one of the good examples that I use a lot is I've been jumping into DALL-E and Midjourney, trying to figure out, instead of using stock photography for a blog post or for a presentation, I've been trying to use my creative mind and go into one of the tools to see if I can come up with a prompt that again represents the story I'm trying to tell. So that's been fun. It's been fun for me to have something that's unique and that's mine, that isn't something stock, which is fine. It certainly has its place. But for what I'm doing, I'm trying to see if there's other ways that I can use my creativity. I'm trying to test the tools there. So if someone asks me a question, I could, say that I've tried it out as well. And here's some cases that I've done for it. So that's a really easy crawl. Jump into some of these tools. DALL-E and Midjourney, you get credits. And when those credits expire, we can either purchase more or wait till they're replenished. So that's really nice. By
the way, DALL-E, sorry to interrupt you, but DALL-E, I know that actually is about to release a new version.
They just
released, integrated with the ChatGPT.
With ChatGPT
Pro.
And that's really cool. Just being able to just get those two things together, because sometimes the prompts are hard to write because you know what's in your head and you can visualize in your head, but you can't put it into words. So having ChatGPT to help put it into words to create the image is very fascinating.
Yeah, I need to start, testing this a little bit.
And it's so hard. I'm trying to see if I could, in my 40-hour work week, can I spend 2 hours a week, on Friday afternoons or something, where I just sit down and just test some tools.
Yeah. And the more advanced one, I've seen some work from Synthesia that it's all about this video avatar that all you need to do is just write scripts and they do the delivery for you.
Yes, they have that. Adobe's coming out with more things. Runway is a tool we talk about a lot, where used it recently, where you can put in, they do text to video, video to text, obviously just transcribing, text to image. I mean, it's just amazing what they can do. And there's one feature, I think it's I'm almost certain it's Runway, where say I put in a photo of a portrait, but the portrait is in portrait mode, but I really want to use it for a presentation. I can put that photo in there and I could say, make me a background to match this photo. So I could then take that photo and put it on my slide, and this side where I put the text matches that portrait's background. So, or Paul has shown in some of his intro classes, where he types in, draw, a field in the country with a farm on top of the hill. Okay, so you get the image, and then you say, now add to the left of it, add this, this, and this, and it does. So we can take your first main image and then just keep going, all from the same thread. So you don't need to change your prompt. You just add to your prompt every time.
Oh, I see. Interesting. Yeah.
It is really interesting.
Yeah. One of the nagging questions I'm sure you keep hearing from marketers is, what is the right balance here? Because obviously there's on one side, we know that AI content cannot be copyrighted. And two, there's the implications of all these disputes with the artists, about copyright usage.
Right.
So what is your kind of golden standard recommendation for marketers who want to use, visual AI generated visuals, but don't feel like they are either stealing or it's not original?
Right. So I spoke with one of my friends at CMI, Joe Kalinowski, and he's a creative director. He's an artist. He is amazing at what he does. And he and I sat down one day and he said, I'm never using AI tools. This was at least 6 months ago. And I said, okay, just hear me out. So when we worked together once a month, he and I would go meet for coffee, and we would do a brainstorming session on, we have these campaigns coming up, these events coming up. Let's talk about the visual, the design, the theme, what the visual aspects are going to look like. And it was awesome. And from my ideas, from my very, very small ideas, he would create something magical. And I left CMI, and someone else has, gone in and taken my role, and she's amazing, but she's not local, so they can't get together. She's good at many, many other things, but they just aren't doing that brainstorming session. So I said, what if Dolly or Midjourney could be your brainstorming partner, where you type in, here's what the campaign is, here's what we're looking at doing, here's what the program is, and even if the output is awful, it might spark another idea. So using the tool to give you some idea generation, I think, that's really great. And for me now, I am not JK. I am not Joe Kalinowski. I can't go in and do the things that he's doing. So for what I need the tools. I need the AI tools. I'm using Dolly, I'm using Midjourney, I'm using Canva to help create images. And in Canva, you can remove your backgrounds. That's artificial intelligence. So because I don't have the skills that he has, I am using these tools to help me. So if there were things where we needed a new logo design, or we needed some big major branding, I wouldn't use that. One, because it's not copyrightable. Could you imagine doing your whole entire brand using AI and then you realize you can't copyright it? So there are limitations, like I'll use, like I said, the images for our blog content, or for thumbnails on our YouTube videos, or things like that. But if we were going to redesign our website, I would not be using AI, because I don't know if we're ever going to own that content, and I don't want to take that risk. So if someone happens to steal our blog post image,
Right.
It's not the end of the world.
So
You know,
you basically deciding based on how important is the container for the final destination, basically.
just kind of that cost benefit analysis of,
Yeah.
is it worth it for us to, I need something fast, I need something, and the likelihood of someone taking it from you is probably pretty low. And that's okay, so for us, that's okay. For someone else, they might say, no, we want to make sure we own that content. So then they shouldn't use the tool right now. And, it'll be interesting to see. There's going to be cases held up in the court systems for years, in the legal system. So just seeing where that pans out. But as of right now, I'd just be really cautious on if you're using it for something you want, your IP attached to.
Definitely. I mean, from what I'm hearing from my friends at the agency side, they also said they use visual generators only for kind of a mock-up for the client. And based on that, obviously they go in and design the finished product. So,
and I don't know if it's changed, but when I was first using some of these tools, the output was very low resolution.
yeah.
So in many instances, you need to recreate it anyways. And then it would be yours.
Yeah. And there's, on top of that, some of those generate can allow you actually to upload a base image, and you can actually manipulate on top of that. So that's another.
We were just talking to someone, I think it might have been in our Slack group actually, where someone was trying to do some product images, and could they find different backgrounds without having to go do the photo shoot? If they had the photo of the product, could they use AI to help create, in different situations?
Yeah. No, that's still kind of a moving targets, how this whole space is going to evolve, because again, the ease of use is really incredible. The results are, I just did a story, and if you saw it in my newsletter, just comparing two images that I created in a distance of 1 year, and the results were completely different.
Right. And that's we're talking about, it can do this, but it can't do this. It's low resolution. That's all changing so quickly that we might, if we come back and do the same podcast in 3 months, we'll probably have stories to share.
Completely. Yeah. So now that we got a good sense of your journey and some of your perspectives about tools, can you share maybe 1 or 2 examples just to kind of bring it to life for us?
Sure. So I did a presentation for Vidyard, the video tool. I did a presentation for them in June. So I'm just going to share a few of the slides from that presentation. If you're familiar with the Institute, one of our biggest piece of content is our podcast, which is great. We've been able to repurpose, not only run the podcast, but repurpose the podcast into YouTube Shorts, into Instagram stories, TikTok, things like that. We're just actually, I was talking to Claire this morning on our team, and she said she wants to start using some things on TikTok. So this is Mike and Paul from our team. And every week, every Monday morning, the podcast is recorded. And I use a tool called Descript, which I know that many people have heard me talk about a lot. But what I love about Descript is when I first started at the Institute, I said to Paul, or I asked Paul, I said, who produces the podcast? And he said, you will be. And I don't know how to do that. And so he said, look into Descript. You're smart, you can figure this out. So what I do is I pull the file into Descript, just the MP4. So we record on Zoom. We pull the MP4 into Descript, and it comes right here on the left. I wait a few minutes and it transcribes it. What I like is that you can identify the different speakers. And I know many tools can do this as well. But what I like about that is that if I'm going back to do anything, or, we also include the transcript in our show notes on our blog. So it's much easier to read through a transcript if you see the people that are speaking. So it does that. And, just the transcription part, that's artificial intelligence. And then also there's a tool within Descript called Studio Sound. So whenever we're recording the podcast, Mike is usually in the office and Paul is usually at home. So, which means they're actually using the same microphone. They've got the same headsets on, or but just because they're in different places, they just sound different. So there's an option within Descript called Studio Sound, where you just toggle the studio sound on, and it levels out their voices. It removes the background noise and it levels out their voices, which is awesome. So if there's a car driving by, or there's a noise in, in the background somewhere in the office, all of that goes away. And the sound is just so much crisper, where prior we were having to hire someone to do that for us. So now we're
Yeah.
able to use these tools at a very, very low cost every week.
Brilliant. Mhm.
And then also there's a way that you can go through, and if so this podcast, for example, Paul said, I forget the guy's name that was doing the interview, Scott something. So I was like, I don't know if I want that in there. Should we remove it?
Mhm.
So the way Descript works is that you can actually, instead of going down here into the sound waves and
Yeah.
trying to
Takes
figure out,
forever.
all you do is you delete the words and it clips the video.
Amazing.
So it's, so then I'm like, I guess I can produce podcasts,
Can you change the text, like if they say something different or different the wording?
You can, yes, actually, because we just recorded episode 64. So I've got 64 hours of Paul and Mike talking. So if a name is mispronounced, or I want to, a couple weeks ago, one of our sponsors wanted to change up their ad. So what we did was we re-recorded it and then I just edited it in. I wonder if I could have just used the overdub feature, which they have, because they have Paul's voice now. Could I have had it?
Okay.
So I would actually, that's been on my list of things to go back and try to see if that would have worked.
Yeah, because I think I've read somewhere in their training, they say that you can actually train the system on your own voice, and then you can pretty much use it like Word, and it will just turn it into your voice.
Right. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there are a lot of features in here that I have not even touched.
Well, that's cool. No, this is amazing. Thanks for
And
sharing.
then I mentioned Canva. So we use this thumbnail on all of our podcast episodes we put on YouTube. And Paul and Mike, you can tell they're not in the same room at the same time in those photos, but Mike was standing against a brick wall, Paul standing against a blue wall. And in order to make these photos look, just a little more seamless and not so, just two portraits next to each other, you can just remove the background, and that's AI hard at work.
Yep.
And then we take our podcast and we do a show notes episode on the blog. And then we also do summaries. It's 3 different stories we focus on every single week. So we're able to go in and we can do a blog post on topic 1, topic 2, and topic 3. So I use the recaps feature in Writer to help me identify those key takeaways. And again, I can go in and do it. I have the transcript.
This is writer.ai, right?
It is writer.com.
.com. Okay.
Yep. So they've got this recaps feature, and all I have to do is drop in either the MP4, or I can go ahead and just drop in the YouTube link and it will pull the takeaways for me. So a lot, we say that you can't copyright AI generated content of any sort, but since I put in our human content and it's recapping our human content, it's actually okay for me to use these takeaways. So I'm learning how to do this better, because one thing I realized is that when I did these recaps, is that it gave me 2 takeaways on topic 1, 2 takeaways on topic 2, and not on topic 3. So I decided to go through and write topic 3, which was fine. But what I did the next time was I created short versions of all the videos of each of the topics, and I did them one by one. So then I was able to take the 3 recaps and morph them into one blog post. So I'm just learning how to better use these tools, which is really important, because a lot of times when the tools aren't working as best they could, it's actually because of us, not really knowing how to do the inputs, not really knowing how to create the prompts. So I've been trying to getting better at this.
Yeah, no, we all are. I think I tried the read.ai, and in addition to the transcription, it gives you a summary of and next steps kind of a section. Right. So that's always useful to have as well.
And then this is Gloss AI. It's Gloss AI. I just looked it up yesterday. It's not gloss.ai. I don't remember. Yeah. But so they do takeaway. You can do clips. So what you do is you upload your video, and the AI scrubs your video, and it figures out what, based on the text, based on the transcript, it's saying this was a key moment, versus just trying to take various sentences. So it's really smart at going through and identifying where were some more poignant moments and creating the shorter clips for me. And I can go back in and I could look at clip of takeaway 1, and I can actually edit it a little bit. If maybe I want the sentence before it to be included in the video, I can just drag it. I can move the cursor and drag it up, and it'll reclip the video for me automatically.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. And the nice thing about this is we use this actually for our conference this year, and we were able to turn around these short form videos so quickly. So we were able to immediately say, here is a minute from Paul's session, a minute from Chris Penn's session, and post all those pretty close to real time. And actually our on-demand sales of our event were great. And I think in large part because we were able to share the content so quickly. Me being able to edit 10, 15 sessions, that would have taken me a few weeks to get through all those with everything else to do. So for us to get those out so quickly was really great. And the speakers loved it. They were so happy to see and then they say, oh my gosh, can we use these? And we said, sure.
Yeah.
So being able to repurpose some of their content. And then I also recently found a few weeks ago another tool called Opus Clip. And we are using Opus Clip to turn our podcast into YouTube shorts and then TikTok videos where it's able to, and the same thing. We upload, actually Claire's doing it now. We upload the video to Opus Clip and it goes through and it gives me 8 to 10 shorter clips of the podcast, and it's in a vertical format, which is better for, obviously for YouTube shorts and for TikTok. And so say they give me 10 outputs, maybe 7 of them are usable, which is fine. I don't necessarily need 10 of them, but the fact that I have 7 versus me not being able to get to that yet because I have other things going on. So it's able to do that. I can add my logo, I can add my brand colors. So I'm just learning how to repurpose these things. And I was telling our team right before I got on this call with you was that we are now, our numbers on both our podcast as well as YouTube are skyrocketing. And I think a huge part of it is our ability to repurpose all the content, get it out faster, and let people know that the podcast is there.
Yeah, so kind of shortening the gap between, the production, the release, and the actual time. People can get even small snippets of it.
Correct. So, and this because I know you're a listener, but we record the podcast on Mondays, or Mike and Paul recorded on Mondays, and we have it live by Tuesday at 7 a.m. with the blog posts, with all of this other stuff. And I just don't think that would be possible for us to turn around a news format that quickly without these tools to help us.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And then the rest of it I was going to show you is just ChatGPT. I'm taking the title of the blog post and putting it in ChatGPT saying, can you write me 6 tweets, 2 LinkedIn posts, 1 Facebook post on this topic? And I haven't mastered that quite yet, but I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better at the prompts. And I think the tools are slowly getting better, but I haven't found some one size fits all magic bullet to us for our social, but it does help us again get the content out faster. And if I'm having a mental block and a writer's block and I just need someone to a starting point, those tools are just really helpful.
Right. And you mentioned a little bit about some of the results you're getting from your podcast viewership and other channels. Can you share maybe a little bit about what are the typical KPIs you are monitoring for visual stories?
So for the podcast, it's just our biggest piece of content. And I think there are so many use cases. If someone that is, listening doesn't have a podcast, I think you could do the same thing for your blog, for any other things that you're doing.
Yeah.
So for our podcast, for example, we look at first 24 hours, who downloads in the first 24 hours, the first 7 days, and then over the course of that episode. And before we started this new process, before they changed to the news format, and we know that ChatGPT played a big role in that spike. Yeah. However, the pacing is still increasing at a pretty nice clip. So before we started this,
you're talking about downloads, right?
Correct, downloads. We were at 200 downloads an episode for the whole entire episode, and now we're over 6,000. So we're getting 2,000 plus downloads, almost 3,000 downloads in the first 24 hours. Yeah. So, and it's just because we're going so quickly and we're able to get out content so much quicker than we were before.
I see. Yeah, no, that's insane. Yeah. And I guess for other visual content like images, I guess that's related to where it's actually, you place them like web pages. So it's typically views, engagement.
It is. And we really haven't, to be quite frank, we haven't really started to measure the impact on the pages we should do that. We should benchmark and say, we started using images on this date versus our text we've been using. And have we seen a spike? Have we seen any type of improvement? So no, that's something that should be on our list of things to do.
Cool. Awesome. And I'm sure you also, when you talk to marketers and share some information about the proper way to use AI, you share any guidance about risks, things they should watch out for?
Yeah, I think the way we encourage folks to get started is don't look at the tool, try to figure out what you're trying to do with the tool before you even select one.
Mhm.
Do you have a use case? And for
Yeah.
example, my use case was very simply, I don't know how to produce a podcast. So what am I trying to do? I need to edit, I need to correct the sound, I need to write the blog. So here's my 10 things I do every single week. Actually, it's 30 steps because I documented it.
Mhm.
And we're going through and say, okay, AI can help us here, AI can help us here. Let's go find a tool that can do that.
Mm.
So that's been, so figure out, Paul has a spreadsheet he uses in his presentations, and it basically says, write down all the tasks you're doing for a certain problem,
Mhm.
and then say, what is the value to intelligently automate it, and what is your ability to automate it. So you rank 1 to 5, and you try to see where are they in 5 in both places, and then start there. And
Mhm.
if you don't know which tool to start with, you can go to our website, or you can simply Google AI and podcast production, AI and
Yes.
you know videos and things like that, where there are tools that will surface. I think G2 is getting a little better. If you know
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Descript is a tool that you've heard about, you like. I wonder if they have any competitors. I think G2 is getting, some of those tools in there more and more. And then I think that's really the starting point, is instead of saying, oh, someone's using Jasper, great tool, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but doesn't everyone should be using it. Figure out what problem you're trying to solve. Is one of the tools better at informational copy? Is one better at creativity? Is one better, or simply which interface do you like the best? So
Right.
many of the tools have free 2-week trials, or even just free versions, and just play around with those and try them. There are sometimes I actually have Bard, ChatGPT, Claude open at the same time with a fly just went by my
Yeah.
head. And seeing which ones give me the output I'm looking for. And it's never ever the same one. They all have their strengths.
Right.
So just testing out some of these things over and over.
Yeah, but in terms of categories, it looks like content management is kind of the low-hanging fruit to get started with.
I think it's just the most tangible.
Yeah.
And I think, when ChatGPT came out, people were like, oh, that's artificial intelligence. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that, and I actually could be using it. So whether you're writing blog content or writing sales emails or whatever you're doing, I use it sometimes to fix my Excel formulas. I will type in the formula that I think it should be, and I'll say, here's what I'm trying to do. What am I
Mm.
doing wrong? And usually it's like adding a comma where I don't think a comma
Oh, I
needs
see.
to be. You know what I mean?
Got
So
it.
it
Yeah.
doesn't
I see.
always need to be generating
Mhm.
marketing copy. You could be using it
Right.
for a number of reasons.
Yeah. Summarizing, copy polishing.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
talking to a local enterprise, and they were talking about, I said, you ever use transcription for your interviews? And they were like, oh, no, 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 we don't do that. And I said, but just think, if you were doing an interview, you were
mhm.
talking to someone and you were trying to write down their notes, trying to write down their quote and making sure you got it right. Wouldn't it be so much better if you were just able to actually be in the interview, listen,
Yeah.
just record the interview, be fully engaged, not try to do 2 things at once? How much of a better interview would that be if you could spend that time really focusing on the person you're talking to, and less about trying to get all the content, and just record it and get the transcription, and then use that to write your
And then you
content.
summarize basically and kind of edit it after the fact instead of
Right.
editing in real time, so to speak.
Correct. And half
Yeah.
listen. This
Yeah.
person's invested their time with you, and you just want to, so use these tools to our advantage. And it still needs a super hard edit. It still needs the humans.
Sure.
We still
Yeah.
need the artists. We still need the visual experts. Paul needs a speaker reel. Obviously, just in this time, he's been asked to speak a lot. And he doesn't even have a speaker reel. So he said, can we do that? And I said, no, we need the experts to do that. That's
Mhm.
something that I can do the day to day. I can edit words and clip a short
Sure.
video. But for the big, highly produced videos, the professionals need to be
Right.
doing.
Right. And still speaking about the creative content that you typically work with, do you have a protocol to kind of mitigate risks of falsehoods, issues with accuracy, copyright, bias?
I think, I don't know. So Jasper, kind of going around your question a little bit, but Jasper has written a generative AI policy they have on their website. There are a couple other ones we look at to say, like, is our company doing the right thing? And some of those things are, have we gone through the tools that we're thinking about using and partnering with? Have we read their terms and conditions? How are they using our data? How are they using
Yeah.
our information to make sure that we are doing our due diligence?
Yeah.
Lawyers, IP lawyers it's a great field to be in right now,
Yeah.
just because we're all trying to figure this out. But to go back to your question of, how do we protect ourselves and how do we know what we should be using? It's just everything's changing so quickly. So we err on the side of caution on how we're using our content. I don't know if you've ever heard Paul say, but four of us on our team, I'm not sure about I can't think about the two new, but we're journalism majors. We're writers. We like writing.
Yeah.
We like creating. So we're not using AI to write our content. We're using AI to help us repurpose and distribute our content. And every now and then we'll use it as a brainstorm or something, but to write a blog post we love, we're not using AI for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it's really taking away, this satisfaction of also creating something you're proud of, something you believe in. Because in my mind, I kind of thinking out loud, kind of fast forward a couple of years, AI is going to become much stronger, adoption is going to go up. There's a good chance that, marketers probably going to be mixed crowd of some of them that using exactly like you said, very balanced approach of, okay, I'm going to brainstorm with a tool, but actually have my hand on the wheel to produce my personal touch. But there are going to be another camp that's going to, I call them the copy and pasters, basically going to use the tools. Why work hard? I want to cut time, productivity, all that.
But I think those are the folks that have been writing for search engines instead of writing from their heart anyways. The people that have been trying to work the system and trying to rank higher by writing adequate content to rank, those are the people that are going to be trying to cut corners with AI. There are so many purists out there who are need to start tinkering with these tools and figuring out how they can work alongside the tools. And those are the ones that are going to succeed. If we're getting outputs from these tools, the humans are going to be the ones that are going to be making the difference. Adding our personal touch, adding our words, adding our voice, adding our creativity. That is so, so important right now with all of this technology.
Right.
And visual is no exception.
Yeah, no, for sure. And interestingly, you mentioned the search engine ranking. Obviously, AI has a huge kind of looming shadow right now on the search engine sector. What's your take about that?
So Andy Crestodina, do you know Andy?
Yeah.
At Orbit Media, he just wrote this amazing blog post on using ChatGPT for SEO, and it is absolutely remarkable. So I'd highly recommend looking up Andy's Orbit Media article. He just talks about how to use it, how to help you think through some things, how to generate some copy, what it means, and how to measure your results. So I can't even speak as highly, I can't even explain it as well,
I was thinking more about not about how to use AI to kind of accommodate the existing search engines, but if you see kind of a transition point where people will start moving more towards the AI tools, like why go sift through like a million search results if I can get one answer and keep refining it? So what happens to our, SEO? Is it gone, or is ChatGPT of the world will become more, SEO? It's going to be, we have to learn AI SEO because the tools.
You're right, because if you think about when you go to a ChatGPT, it's giving you an answer. When you go to Google, it's giving you 10 links to search, the other 100,000 links to search through.
Yeah,
that's a good question. And I think they're going to have to keep training these models. If they don't refresh the models, then we're going to need Google. And I think Google recognizes that that's going to be so they're trying to iterate and are updating their things, and Bard is available, and so that I just read something yesterday about when will these large language models refresh and update their content. So I don't know if some of it is through the things that we're putting into these tools. It's learning from us. So I don't know.
Yeah,
And
I've been using a Perplexity, and what I like about it, it gives you like the links for where you got the information from, so you can A, validate it, and B, someday maybe it's SEO worthy for the
right,
sites.
gosh, my friend Beth loves Perplexity.
Yep.
She said it's absolutely amazing.
Yep.
You did bring up a good point about, research and accuracy of some of these outputs. If you're writing something and you're looking to do research, I would not use the tools, because oftentimes you'll get results, and even results that will have citations and they're made up.
And the broken links, you get often broken links, even if the
Yes.
link is active.
Right.
So that's incredible. Yeah, one of the things that really fascinated me, in your recent annual report was that, and Paul actually addressed that in the fact that your audience is actually well advanced marketers in the AI adoption process. So it's already kind of skewed towards that audience. So early adopters. So what was kind of intriguing was that the number one issue they faced, it was really that blocking them from adoption is education and training.
Right.
So what do you think about where we are? I mean, it's kind of, AI is constantly moving, and even the people that are using it are not really covering the whole spectrum.
It's interesting. So I was looking at some research. So we've got, again, to your point, we sent out our survey to people that we knew, our 50,000 subscribers and
Yep.
members of our community, people who follow us on social media, who have an inclination already, an interest in artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
And so we had, the jump from beginners to intermediate and those that consider themselves advanced increased this year over year. I was talking to someone else about their report that they did, asked a similar question, not the same, but similar. And they said marketers were just getting started. And I was talking to someone else who had a research report who talked about business in general, and the marketing departments, because they had ops, they had sales, R&D, finance, and marketers were the lowest ranking, as far as AI usage. So we show it higher on our end, obviously, because we are getting survey responses from those who are following the Marketing AI Institute.
Exactly.
So it's interesting, but I do think, to your point, that there were a lot of C-suite, a lot of CMOs who took the survey, who basically were saying, we're interested, we know we need to do it, we either don't know where to start, we don't know how to find time to start, how can we make sure that we're getting the best information? And oh, by the way, I have 20 other things I need to get done by 5 o'clock. So a lot of it is time on their part, and just taking the initiative to do this.
And outside the practicality of time allocation, have you encountered any other kind of misconceptions that marketers might have?
There's definitely is taking my job,
Yeah.
concern. And we try to, mitigate that as much as possible, saying, what I mentioned earlier is that if you look at some of the outputs from some of these generative AI tools, marketers are needed more than ever. Humans are needed more than ever. And, but we're going to have to reskill at some point, we're going to be using these tools, and we're going to be saving so much time, or it's doing these things, especially like data analysis. It can do data analysis so much faster than we can. Mm-hmm. How can we make sure that we are protected and safe in our jobs?
Yeah.
So sure. It's going to be reskilling us, reskilling our roles, reskilling ourselves, trying to figure out, now that I have 5 extra hours a week, what could I be doing? Can I be more strategic? Can I be more creative? Can I be talking to customers more? How can I be reinvesting that time to be the most valuable in areas where AI won't be able to help me? And when we were hiring our 2 recent hires, Claire and Noah, we did go through their job descriptions, because we wanted to make sure we were setting them up to succeed. We didn't want to hire them and then realize, oh, in 6 months, we actually didn't need them and have to get rid of them for some reason. So we wanted to make sure we were.
Yeah, they're essential, basically.
And securing their job for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. So, with all your mileage with AI so far, any thoughts about what the future will bring and how it will affect visual storytelling?
I think the next big thing that I'm seeing is, a lot of companies focused on bringing a lot of the tools, getting their own versions of the tools to protect their own IP, to protect their data, to protect their assets. And to your point about visuals, if there's this library of all these visual elements that your team has put together and you want it to train off of your visual elements, that would be amazing. So it could help you without it training somebody else, or without your competitors seeing what you're doing, having access to all of these things. So I think that's going to be the next big thing. And I haven't seen it from a visual side of things, but definitely from a generative AI side of things, from a copy standpoint. So I could definitely see that something. And I feel like that would be really helpful to a lot of companies. And artists aside, if there's a brand look, a brand, tone that you are trying to go with in your images, and you have various people working on this, what a great thing to be able to have a tool that could help you streamline a lot of those things, to have them have the same look. So that would be really neat.
It's basically like a custom database around the company's own historical data,
right?
not really exposed to the wild internet.
Yeah, and then I know I've been talking to a tool, a digital asset management tool, who is trying to embed more AI into what they're doing, and what an opportunity for us to tie visual elements to KPIs, to results, to usage of that asset, and bringing all of that back together in a more, because a lot of that was so manual in the past.
Yeah.
How could AI be helping us do all of that, so we can really be focusing on what we love creating, and spend less time on trying to analyze and make sure we tag something the right way, or all those things. It's just going to save us a lot of time on the rote, repetitive things that we've been doing.
Definitely. So to close our chat, this is a question I'm sure you're getting all the time. What you say is your top 3 tips for marketers who want to start with AI to kind of augment their visual storytelling responsibly.
Well, I would say you're not behind yet, but you're going to be soon. So start doing something. Start looking at some of these tools. So that's my tip number 1, is jump in. Tip number 2 is find a use case. Find a very simple use case. I want to A/B test subject lines. I want to A/B test a header image on an email. I want to find one thing, and then go find a tool. And if you spend $10 for that first month, or it's free for the first month, it's worth the investment. And 3, think about it holistically. We were talking to someone about our podcast, and with all the tools we use, we spend about $100 a month. And someone said, I don't have $100 a month. Yeah. And I said, we save 68 hours a month by my calculations, by using this tool. It is worth $100 a month. Yeah. So looking at, there are some tools that are very expensive. You don't need to go to the most expensive thing. Sure. But investing a few dollars to save a lot of money and have some really great results is worth it. So think bigger picture than just that first price point. And look around, join a community. We've got a community. I know there's lots of other communities out there, but talk to people about what you're trying to do. One of the best things about the group that we're in is someone says, I'm trying to create some images and I'm using this tool and I'm getting this output. Is there a different tool, or am I using it wrong? Or does anyone have any advice? Yeah. And you'll get responses from different people, and they're all different and they're all valuable in their own way. So we're all learning from each other, and just ask questions, ask for help, cool. Ask other people how they're using it. And we're all kind of in this together right now. Yeah, no, absolutely. We actually shaping the future together. We are. It's fun. Very cool. Excellent. Thank you so much, Cathy. This was phenomenal. I always learn so much from you and from the Institute. And if people want to ask you or contact you for more questions, how they can reach out? We're at marketingaiinstitute.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Cathy McPhillips. And we're pretty, you can't miss us. You can find us easily. Yeah, just so for those who never heard about the Institute before. Very cool. All right. Thank you so much. It's been a lovely time chatting and dissecting. And yeah, I hope everybody listening or watching, stay tuned for the next episode of the Visual Storytelling Today. Thank you. Thanks so much.